we're going to be looking at the extended origin story of Batman. Basically, I think talking about how, Batman is one of the most popular comic book characters of all time. I freaking love Batman. And I think this is delving into, like, the history of how he, everything he went through in terms of, his training is the impression that I got. Not simply just another rehashing of his parents' death and crime alley and thing. This is okay, how he became the fighter that he is, how he became the detective that he is. I think it's delving into those origins, which I'm interested in. So, Xanax, I don't know. It could be a blend. It could be a blend of both. I am not sure. So, let's find out.
Hello, I'm Tyler, this is the Imaginary Axis, and the only reason those two statements are true is because I don't have what it takes to be Batman.
Die.
Now granted, some of that is because I just don't have the money, but there's more to being Batman than owning a bunch of expensive gadgets. Becoming Batman takes years of
Yeah, and by the way, that's one thing that I really fucking hated about the Zack Snyder Batman is they didn't really go, yeah. I didn't like how when he recruited Barry and Barry's like, "So what's your power?" and his response is, "I'm rich." I didn't like that. It's like, okay, this is fucking Batman. I understand that it's not, the main comic continuity, but it's like they didn't do enough of him as a detective. And that's the biggest, yeah, I know, it's the meme answer. And they actually put that in the fucking movie. They don't do enough of Batman as a detective. They always focus on basically his tactical ability and his fighting prowess. But I honestly feel like there is not enough attention paid to his deductive skills and how and why he's basically considered the greatest detective in the world. And I wish they would do more with that. It's they make him a detective first. And have the fighting prowess and everything kind of be a bit secondary. They the old I think in the newest Batman cartoon, I think they did do it, but they also did do it in the original Batman the Animated Series. The original Batman the Animated Series had a pretty nice blend of Batman as the crime fighter and Batman as the detective. They showed a very good mix of both. And I wish more Batman stuff would do that.
Acquiring and perfecting an untold number of skills driven forward by nothing but tragedy, a desire for justice, and sheer determination. I just don't have most of those things. Could a normal person reach Batman's
Elvin,
level?
He's the best.
Well, his workout routine was published in the Batman Files, and most fitness experts agree it would pretty much kill you. This is a guy who can bench 1,000 pounds and leg press 2,500 pounds.
What? He can bench 1,000 pounds and leg press 2,500. No, I did not know that. I did not know he was that strong. Holy shit.
Those numbers are in range of the world records for both skills, and he can still run fast enough to keep up with the best speed and endurance athletes in the world. But maybe it's not as crazy as it sounds. In the book Becoming Batman, written by kinesiology and neuroscience professor Dr. E. Paul Zare, serious consideration is given to the limits of the human body, and the author himself concludes a dedicated trainer could more or less become Batman with 20 years, a strict study and workout schedule, a crazy sleeping schedule, and 4,000 calories a day. For comparison's sake, I only need 2,700 calories a day, and we're actually around the same height. But we all know the best way to determine how Batman can become Batman is to study his life ourselves. Everyone knows the basic story. Billionaire child has his parents killed in front of him, swears vengeance on crime, becomes a superhero. But today we're exploring the in-between years. Get ready for a full rundown of Bruce Wayne's life, training, and the extended origin of Batman.
Nice. I love this. This is gonna be awesome. Hopefully this part doesn't get dwelled on too much.
So we
We've
all
seen
know
it a
Bruce
million
Wayne's
times.
parents were killed in front of him when he was 8 years old, and this triggered some serious willpower. He decided as a child that he would become a one-man war on crime.
And 20th Century Fox fan, thank you for the follow.
Realistic? Well, probably not. Even the most skilled fighters in the world have trouble when outnumbered 10 to 1 by opponents with weapons. But Bruce...
Believe it or not, Revan, like, don't forget, Joe Chill was just an average street thug. Most average street thugs usually don't go after kids. He went after, Thomas and Martha because he went to go steal Martha's pearls. Thomas tried to intervene, and so Joe Chill shot him out of reflex, and then Martha's screaming probably caused him to panic, and thus he shot her. Bruce was just standing there, and he's a kid, so that's very likely why he left him alive, because most thugs won't, will take great pains to avoid hurting children. So, yeah, exactly. It was a panic shooting. He never intended to actually kill someone. It just happened. It doesn't make it any better, but that's what happened.
Skilled fighters in the world have trouble when outnumbered 10 to 1 by opponents with weapons, but Bruce had the backing of the Wayne fortune to help even the odds as much as he could. From 8 to 14, he mastered knot tying, acting, acrobatics, martial arts, and all the sciences, maths, and languages available to him. Which is really impressive, but not impossible. Bruce Wayne's IQ is generally estimated to be around 192, and he has a knack for multitasking.
Damn.
Could a dedicated genius child manage to pick up all of those skills with a packed schedule? Sure, especially considering the mind training. Bruce Wayne streamlined his education by teaching himself speed reading, lip reading, and total recall along the way, in an attempt to learn as much as he...
Okay, think about that. Speed reading? That's impressive. Lip reading? Sure. Recall. Total memory recall. That's something you typically only hear about in people that have... Basically, it like, that is kind of... Well, that's the thing, Hoseki. Like, how the hell do you teach yourself total recall? You're talking about people with eidetic memories, which is typically a medical condition, not something you can teach yourself. The only... And like, I'm not sure what, how people, like, what the biological thing, kind of, sort of, I get, like, with Rain Man, in Rain Man, with Ray, or with Raymond, that might have stemmed from, and this kind of dovetails into another incident that I know about in fiction, where it's, like, with OCD. So with Raymond in Rain Man, his autism manifested in OCD. It's why he always wanted to be on the schedule, why he was so good at counting, because he would see something and he would instinctively count it because of OCD. So with his OCD, his thing wasn't really recall, it was just counting. And it was numbers. It was doing numbers. There was an episode of House that I remember seeing where a waitress has what seems to be eidetic memory. She literally can remember everything she's ever seen. and heard, and it ended up being a symptom of OCD, like severe OCD. But teaching it to yourself, like learning how to do it, that's a whole different breed. The only time I've ever heard about it being possible is because of medical conditions. So, well, I mean, Barry Allen has, I think his recall may stem from his Speed Force factor because his brain chemistry is moving so much faster. It may have something to do with that. And yeah, yeah, like Sherlock Holmes with the mind palace thing. But Sherlock Holmes also, again, you could describe that to autism and OCD. If anyone could be considered OCD, it's fucking Sherlock Holmes, especially from the BBC series. So again, it's stemming from another neurological condition of some sort. You know, just like learning, basically teaching yourself to have eidetic memory, that's, I don't actually know how possible that may be. Maybe he will explain how possible it might be.
Speed reading, lip reading, and total recall along the way. In an attempt to learn as much as he could, as quickly and efficiently as he could, Bruce made sure to master as many learning methods as he could. Bruce is likely ambidextrous, or capable of using either hand as the dominant one, and his expertise in memory, numbers, and learning suggests he might have synesthesia. Synesthesia is a phenomenon in which certain sensory experiences become tied together in your mind. For example, you might see different letters as certain colors, or a mental map of numbers might appear when you try to solve equations. It's highly suspected that we all kind of have this to varying degrees, but intense training or genetics can allow you to experience it to a greater degree than the average person. If you have synesthesia, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, it's kind of hard to explain. Take a look at these two shapes. One is a boba, and the other is a kiki. Now, I'm not giving any hints, but go ahead and tell me which is which.
Boba, kiki.
Well, there's about a 90% chance that you said this one is a boba, and this one is a kiki.
Yeah.
Why? Well, I'm not really sure.
I can tell you exactly why. I can tell you exactly why you would call this one instinctively call this one a boba and this one kiki. Because boba has, boba has a softer sound with the b, boba. So you see that, so you have the rounded tendrils. So you would naturally think this would be called boba because of the association of the sound of the word and the shape. Whereas kiki, as you guys have said, sounds sharp. It is a sharper sound, and so you would equate that with the sharper angles that you're seeing here. That's why you do that kind of association, is you're associating the softer word with the quote-unquote softer contours of this shape, and the sharper sounds with the sharper angles.
Why? Well, I'm not really sure. Boba is generally considered a rounder word, and kiki is generally considered a sharp one?
Yes, that's exactly it.
And if you're going to assign a color to the letter A, it's probably red. Our young Bruce Wayne would train associations like these to read faster, memorize better, perform complicated equations in his head, and graduate at the age of 14. After which, he used his finances to obtain the best college education available. All of them. For the next 6 years, Bruce Wayne audited classes at Cambridge, Sorbonne, the Berlin School of Science, and over a dozen other prestigious universities. But he was never in one place for long. Bruce Wayne usually only stayed at his current college for a few semesters, picking up the courses he deemed relevant and moving on to the next expert. This bears striking similarities to a method of study used by Sherlock Holmes in the book A Study in Scarlet, during which Holmes demonstrated that he only focused on gathering information important to his work, and strove to ignore things like astronomy, politics, and literature, so his head wasn't bogged down with useless information he had to shift through.
Well, and what do you want to bet that the character of Batman was greatly inspired by Sherlock in terms of the incredible brain power and detective skills. I mean, th- this is not surprising at all. And it makes absolute sense for both characters to learn only what is necessary and ignore the shit that is not.
Sure enough, Bruce Wayne took similar cues by studying the detective and criminal worlds in his spare time. He trained under renowned detectives Harvey Harris and Dan Mallory, and paid a ton of money to take private boxing lessons from the current heavyweight champion, Ted Grant, or Wildcat. But once he reached the age of 20, Bruce Wayne was finally ready to fight crime. As an FBI agent. Yeah, he actually underwent FBI training, and he scored perfectly on every test except for gun handling. But when admitted into the FBI, he only stayed for 6 weeks before deciding it wasn't for him. At this point, Bruce Wayne was skilled in almost everything you would think you might.
Kind of begs a question. That's a pretty significant paper trail, considering he becomes Batman. Having and of course, in this was in the OG Batman. This, I think that the newer versions of Batman eliminated that, and they basically kind of had more. The newer versions had more of a glossing over of his training. They unfortunately, I think they primarily in the newer versions of the comic, they usually gloss over his mind training and focus much more on his physical training. And his mind training and his education is kind of more nebulous. And yeah, Shadow's like he used a gun like very early in the comics. And then I think they effectively like rebooted his character very shortly after his introduction so that he didn't use a gun. But yeah, like when he first came out in like I think it was Action Comics when he first came out, he did use a gun. And then they like rebooted or retconned all of it, and then he hated guns.
Need to fight crime, but he wasn't the best. The young billionaire traveled east to find the best and become even better. Now, there's a lot we don't know about Batman's pre-Batman campaign across the world. He was training in some areas completely out of touch with civilization, so some of this might be a little out of order. But we do know his.
Yeah, you're talking about what are they calling it? Like is it like the ultimate? No, not the ultimate. Yeah, that new universe they have for them where yeah, Batman is like a blue collar guy and the absolute thank you, yeah, absolute Batman. There's like the absolute universe. No, not the new 52. It's like the absolute universe. Um I think like some of the superpowers are some of the actual superheroes like with powers. I think maybe depowered. I don't know. The only thing I knew about it was the absolute Batman is bigger and brawnier, and he's blue collar. He's not rich, so he's basically making his costume and gadgets. He's just cobbling them together from whatever he can find, basically. Yeah.
His first stop was an ancient temple in the Peak Sun Mountains of Korea. It took him 6 weeks and $40,000 in bribes, but Bruce managed to train under a legendary martial artist named Kirigi for nearly a year. It's never outright stated, but based on the part of the world Bruce was in and the mannerisms of his master, focusing on patience, peace, and clearing of the mind, it's likely Bruce was either studying Bulgyo Musul or Kuk Sul Won with an emphasis on the Bulgyo Musul forms. This is a system of martial arts that can be traced all the way back to Buddhism, and intertwining the physical and mental aspects of battle with everyday life to achieve perfect balance. This system eventually branches into things like Gungdo, Taekyon, the Hapkido arts, and Taekwondo, which incidentally I happen to have a black belt in. Just saying. The point is that this system attempts to study all traditional forms of Korean martial arts, and
yeah, he is. It is said that he has mastered literally every martial art on the planet, and if there's a new one that forms, he'll probably go master that one too. That's like Batman is considered peak human. That's how he keeps up with actual superpowered heroes is because the fact that he is in peak human condition overall, physically and mentally. He is at the absolute pinnacle of what any human being can even hope to aspire to be. That's why he is able to that's why he's able to be a founding member of the Justice League and why he actually can keep up with superheroes.
And does not consider itself limited to any
Yeah,
single
Elvin, it seems like
discipline.
it's mostly that,
So
yeah.
within 1 year, Bruce Wayne basically learned every Korean fighting style at once, along with a certain amount of mental training. He went to France next, and there he worked alongside a detective and mercenary named Henry Ducard, known across the world for his ability to track anyone down. The relationship
Nice.
helped further hone Bruce's detective skills, but there was eventually a falling out due to the unnecessarily brutal and deceptive tactics Ducard used. Bruce
Oh.
Wayne left civilization again to find Willie Doggett instead, a legendary investigator and tracker in the wilderness of Alaska. Grandmaster Chu Chun Li taught Bruce Kung Fu, likely in a combination of each form. And Shihan Matsusa spent 9 months training him in the art of Tumo meditation. Under this technique, Bruce can limit the amount of oxygen he needs to survive, gain complete control over the functions of his mind, slip into a coma to conserve energy if he needs to, and even control his own body temperature. And that all
Nice.
probably sounds crazy until you realize this is a real technique that has been scientifically proven to work. Tumo can conserve and focus the body's energy enough to lower a subject's metabolism by 64%. To put that into perspective, your body's metabolism only slows by about 10 or 15%.
So basically, he's learning. I forget the name of the guy who can do it. I want to say he's Nordic. There's a guy. I remember this from like like Gwyneth Paltrow's bullshit Goop series. I think that was on Netflix, where they had like a bunch of their like editors or something. Like Gwyneth Paltrow would sometimes go with them, some usually not, and have them do these weird things. Yeah, the Iceman. One of them was they were gonna basically do a polar bear swim. And they had for the life of me, I cannot remember his name, but yeah, the Iceman, where he's proven that he can just like get in literal Arctic waters and just chill, basically. And he's good. He lowers his metabolism so that when almost completely submerged in literal Arctic waters, he is fine. And if one of you guys can find his name, please do. But that's a legit thing. They actually study him scientifically. They hooked him up to sensors, had him in these frigid Arctic waters, and they actually monitor him. Wim Hof. Yeah, Wim Hof. That's his name. Yes.
This seems like a lot of training when 99% of people he faces are just normal people physically, especially before people like Deathstroke or other super beings were created. Cheer 100.
Riven, it's, this is like, it makes you think that maybe he has OCD, which would account for being able to do total recall, being able to develop total recall. Um, he wanted to he basically wanted to turn himself into a machine. And he wanted to basically be, you know, he wanted to reach the true pinnacle of humanity in order to fight crime, to be the ultimate weapon on it. Anti-space butter.
When you're sleeping. And this guy, Wim Hof, once ran a marathon
Here
in
he
the
is.
Arctic Circle wearing nothing but shorts and was completely fine because of similar training. Martial arts expert David Kane taught Bruce several exotic fighting styles he hadn't studied before. And then the future Dark Knight eventually hit
Very
Russia,
true,
where
Elwin.
he would perfect his engineering skills under a man who was essentially a mad genius named Sergei. He taught
Eh.
Bruce everything he knew about building, wiring, and thinking critically, and it all came to a
Nice.
climax when they went to Egypt and he stilled Bruce in
Blood Moon, but Deathstroke does have superhuman abilities. I don't think they're natural. I think I think they were engineered and injected into him. But don't forget, Deathstroke has got that healing ability of his. That's one thing Deathstroke has that Batman doesn't. Is Deathstroke basically has a healing factor. It's not as good as Logan or Wade's, but he does have that in addition to all of his skill. And let's not forget, Deathstroke's skills primarily focus on assassinations and combat. Whereas, while Bruce did learn a great deal about combat, he also branched out to engineering, investigative, education, etc. Okay, that's Wade Tornado. That's not Deathstroke. And yes, you're thinking of the Death Battle, aren't you? What watered down Captain America Super Soldier? That could be. And yes, Tybo, I know Deadpool is not a copy of Deathstroke.
Inside the Sphinx with a limited air supply and a handful of random gadgets. Build your
Hang on.
ride this critically, and it all came to a climax when they went to Egypt and he stilled Bruce inside the Sphinx with a limited air supply and a handful of random gadgets. Build your way out or die. Bruce Wayne survived. Ultimately,
Nice.
there were a lot of people Bruce trained with. Martial arts experts we don't even get names for, assassins, sword-fighting experts, brutal military leaders. He even studied both the light and dark sides of Taoism to channel his inner peace and rage, pushing him to levels humans normally just shouldn't be capable of. Heck, one of his masters could use this knowledge to trick opponents into literally thinking he was invisible. He studied with Richard Dragon, perhaps the single best martial artist in the world, and John Zatara, an expert escape artist, magician, and father of Bruce's future Justice League teammate, Zatanna. But Bruce couldn't have done any of this without the Uberman sleep schedule, a real-life sleep pattern that...
Okay, I was gonna mention this, he's bringing it up. Yeah, he figured out this sleep schedule where he only has to sleep, I think, 3 hours per day? So that's how he's, oh my god, yes, Zatanna is fucking hot. Yes, I'm sure she probably slept with Bruce, although she's got a thing for Johnny. The Constantine, not Somali. Yes, and Zatanna is sexy as hell. I love, you have to love a woman that her crime-fighting outfit is basically a one-piece, a one-piece sexy, swimsuit / tuxedo, fishnets, and heels. Of course she's drop-dead sexy. But this is what I was gonna bring that up. It's how he was able to do all this is because he only has to sleep like 3 hours a day, and he's completely rested.
that select people have adopted, only requiring about 2 to 3 hours of actual sleep every night. Don't try this yourself, but when you sleep, your brain goes through several stages of rest to keep your mind sharp. And the most important of these stages is called REM sleep. You typically get about 1.5 hours of REM sleep a night, squeezed between several other stages. But adopting the Uberman sleep schedule changes things. Since it consists of 6 strategically placed 30-minute power naps, your mind eventually changes its method of rejuvenation to into REM sleep as soon as you lose consciousness. And you can get what is more or less a full night of sleep in 2 to 3 hours. There's no doubt this method is not only crucial to Bruce Wayne fighting crime as Batman, but crucial to finishing his training at all. Because when he returned to Gotham from his world tour, it had only been 5 years since he left. So, who is Batman? He's a man. He's studied dozens of academic subjects, knows nearly every martial art by training with their roots, and understands a variety of crime-fighting skills because he's practiced with the best. Are there things he doesn't know? Well, sure. He's admitted Wonder Woman and Shiva are probably better fighters than he is. His hacking skills aren't usually as good as Cyborg's, Constantine is generally a better planner, and Lex Luthor is smarter. But Batman is a representation of just how well-rounded a person can be. His records are on par with Olympians, his friends and co-workers are gods. I don't know if it's possible to be Batman in real life, but it's just close enough to our reach to make us really want to believe. To give us hope that we can stand among the Supermen and Wonder Women with nothing but hard work.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Revan, what he was saying is Lex, on a pure intellectual level, is smarter than Batman. Like, basically, he has a higher IQ, but Batman's deductive reasoning skills are superior to Lex Luthor's. That's how he was able to figure out Clark is Superman. So it's like, There are other individuals who are better in one area than him. Like it was mentioned in the examples, Wonder Woman's a better fighter, Lex has more intelligence than him, Johnny is a better tactician, essentially he's a better planner, but none of them are as well rounded. None of them, has, the well rounded. Like Wonder Woman is not as good of a tactician, and she's not a master detective like Batman is. Johnny is a better tactician, but he's not as good. Obviously, he's not as good of a fighter, and he doesn't do investigative as well. Lex Luthor is more intelligent than him, but Batman is physically more capable than him, and his investigative skills are far superior. So they individually they are better in one area, but not all of them, and Batman is far better well-rounded than any of them. He's he's kind of like the ultimate jack of all trades to the nth fucking degree.
Work and a goal. So if you want to do something or become something, go for it. It took Batman 17 years to get where he is today. So you won't wake up and have your dream tomorrow, but there's always more to learn, and there's always more you can become. So, become the best. Hey there, thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to see more or help support the channel, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, or check out more of our content. If you're already a subscriber, sorry it took so long to get this video out. I've been having some serious computer trouble, and I actually ended up having to buy a whole new system. I really appreciate the support.
I never got the people upset of the Snyder Batman potentially killing bad guys when Arkham Batman arguably did the same with those moves and had literal guns on his car. Cheer 100.
I think that the reason why people had an issue with the Snyder Batman is because Arkham Batman, like when he like quote unquote killed people, he never explicitly like killed them. Whereas with the Snyder Batman, particularly with his car, he's got like twin 50 cals on it, and he literally was mowing people the fuck down. So I think that in specific is, yeah, that in specific is what people didn't like. There's the meme of the Batman doesn't kill, yet he somehow managed to kill a lot of fucking people. The difference there is he doesn't set out, to kill people. That's the crux of it. When he does these things, he's not going out with the intention of killing anybody. In like the main comic line. Have people died when Batman's fought them? Yes. But it's only because circumstances required it. He never basically performed his duty as Batman with the intention to kill anybody. That's the crux of it. He never fights crime with the intent to end someone. It's basically incidental or an act of desperation. Whereas in the Snyder one, you have that one scene where Batman is coming at him in the Batmobile and literally is unloading 50 cals at the bad guys. There's no other. He was intending to kill. There's no other way other than that. So that's the issue that people have. And yeah, Revan, I mean, the whole thing with Red Hood, that's a whole different story.
Like the Bat family, Dick Grayson is a better acrobat, Tim has a better detective skills. Red Hood is more brutal, Batgirl is more scientific, and like you said, Batman is a jack of all trades.
Yeah, basically, yeah. A really badass jack of all trades. Like, he's a jack of all trades where they are only just a little bit better than he is. In one specific area.